Alright, it's finally time to get back and make a motorcycle video. The Kawasaki has just over 8,000 miles on it, so I'm going to do a spark plug change. And now is one of the few times that I'm missing my Harley Davidson, because to do spark plug change on that, all you had to do was squat down on the left side of the bike, take the electrodes off, and screw them out. No special tools really needed, simple to get to, but that's not the case with this bike. So I went ahead and I invested in the service manual. It cost 95 bucks for this book, but if you're going to be doing any kind of work on your bike by yourself, it's probably a good idea, because people on YouTube normally don't include things like torque values and stuff like that whenever you're tightening things up, or the sequence to take bolts out, or anything like that. So a service manual is worth its weight in gold. I went ahead and I browsed through it, and I Xeroxed the copies, or the pages of the sections that I needed for this job, just so that I wouldn't have to use the whole book, and then also so I wouldn't get grease all over it. I can get grease all over these pages and not worry about it. And for safety, to make sure you don't set yourself on fire or anything like that, the manual suggests first siphoning out the fuel from the tank into an appropriate container, and also disconnecting the battery so that you don't have fuel leaking all over the place and then a spark destroying your bike or possibly yourself. So let's get started on that. First things first, I'll take the seat off and siphon the fuel out, disconnect the battery, and then get to work taking all the plastic off so we can get to the spark plugs underneath. Okay, so the pump I bought for $15 was worthless. I had to resort to some redneck problem solving and apply some vacuum using my mouth. So hopefully I do not get mouth cancer. As you can see, I've got a little extra stuff in here. I added some green LED lighting to my frame, so that's why I have these extra wires. But to remove the battery, remember, take your negative terminal off first. Okay, next you have to remove the front bolts on the tank where it connects to the frame using, this is a 10 millimeter socket here. Next you have to remove this bracket at the rear of the tank that holds your seat. One thing I noticed was that the bolts that hold the tank on are labeled with the number 7 for some reason, but the bolts that hold the bracket on are labeled with a little letter B for bracket, so that's kind of helpful, just in case you drop something and they get mixed up. But now you have to remove the rear tank bolts, again using the 10 millimeter socket. Okay, this is your drain hose and that's your breather hose, and they both have these little spring clamps on there that you need to squeeze just a tad and then slide these off. Man, that sucker was on there. There. And there was some kind of vacuum on that breather hose that kept... Okay, next it says disconnect the fuel pump head connector. And it shows a plug that kind of resembles this one, but the position looks totally different in the manual. So I'm going to say it's this one here. So you just have to pry this tab up just a little bit to get it over this hump there, and then it slides right off. Alright, now the manual leaves a little something to be desired at this point. I'm just going to go ahead and try to lift up the tank, and there should be a fuel hose underneath with a special kind of joint that I have to unhook. Move the camera so you can see it better. That's it, right there. Okay, so it's got this red clasp on it, and you have to pry it away using your fingers and pull it out, and don't drop it like I just did, like that. And then you should be able to pull this hose right off. Thankfully that red clasp wasn't too tight. Man, I really do not want to fool with that. It's basically 3 wires. You got a red, a yellow, and a ground wire that connect to this plate at the base of the tank, which I'm guessing if you remove, your tank will leak fuel if you do not attach it properly. And I'm not sure how that plug comes out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a little table or a step ladder, or I'm going to set the bike up some way so that I can just turn the tank around and set the tank there without disconnecting that plug. So here's what I improvised. A big 55-gallon trash can with the lid turned upside down like a dish, and my old winter fleece set inside there to hold it steady and protect the paint on my gas tank. Okay, so now you got to remove your ECU, and apparently some models have screws in this bracket here to hold it into place. Mine does not, so mine just slides right off. So you just have to pull these plugs out and lift it off the top of your bread box. You just have to use a screwdriver from the rear to lift that tab up, and then the plug will slide right off. It's supposed to. There we go. You're just getting that middle tab off of that little hook there. This one, all you have to do is push down on the back and then pry the edges a tiny bit with the screwdriver, and it comes out. Notice they're color coded: gray to gray, black to black. Alright, now it's time to get the air cleaner off, and I'm going to start by just lifting this little wiring bracket out of the back end here. It's just a couple of metal tabs that slide into a couple of slots. You can just pull it down just like that, and then you got to go all the way around and take these screws out. And then you have one last screw right here in the center in this deep hole, so make sure you have a decent length Phillips head screwdriver. You have a drain hose down here. You have to pinch this clamp and work this one off. There you go. And then you got a plug over here. Now I've got to get these bolts at the top of the air cleaner off, and it looks like it's going to be another 10mm socket. If you look on both sides of the bottom of the air cleaner housing, there are small hex head screws that connect. Let's see if I can get the light in here. connect the air cleaner housing to your throttle body. So you're going to need a long hex key, probably a T-handle hex key, to get in there and loosen those up so that this can come off the throttle body. Okay, you definitely need the T-handle hex head to get in there and loosen those screws from the throttle body. There's no way you could get in there with a regular Allen key. Well, actually that small little hose is a little bit more difficult to get off, so up here towards the front end I just took this larger hose loose from here and then set it aside. Alright, so now that that's out of the way, you finally have access to your stick coils 1, 2, 3, and 4 right up here on the front of the bike. And the manual gives you lots of warnings about being careful, don't pry, don't bend, don't drop, don't damage these stick coils. You got to be careful with them. So first I'm going to take all these plugs off, and then these should lift out. That part just takes a little bit of muscle. You just got to pull them straight out. No need to twist them, turn them, bend them, anything like that. Just straight on out. It's going to take a little bit of force to get them.